Then at about 70 or 80 yards, I could see the two red eyes about 8 feet above the ground, moving with the sound of these steps. Hello and welcome back to Talk About Strange. I'm glad you guys didn't go very far because I have more great stories to share with you, and I still have some coffee to keep me going. As I said before in the previous video, Dunkin' Donuts is not affiliated with my channel and does not offer any kind of sponsorship to my channel. They are welcome to if they would like to. I just support them because I really love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. So anyway, we're going to move right on to our next story here. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. We're going to get back into, I think maybe a couple of Bigfoot stories here. So let's see what we got. North Carolina Knobby Bigfoot. Hi, Steve. I'm sharing my experience with Knobby Bigfoot. Laugh out loud. To make you smile, please enjoy. See at the bottom. I will write up my experience with living in a haunted house later, but I'm not sure if there's any point to it because keeping up with 2 channels is a lot of work for you. Note, I'm the person that said in the comments that my mom said I was conceived at Kingsley Plantation. By the way, there is now a warning on the plantation drive to watch out for swamp ape. This is per my aunt. My superpower. My superpower is being able to bilocate, which is due to my astral travel, can be seen by the naked eye. First time was in my early 20s. A co-worker seen me 2 hours before I was supposed to arrive for my 3rd shift at the hospital. John asked why I didn't answer him. I told him that I was at home asleep. Second time, my ex was having a hard time staying awake and he had an early AM delivery. He was too far away to take a nap. I was worried about him. About midnight, I went to bed. While laying down, I tried to see if he was staying between the lines on the road. I was in a dark area. Then I could see the headlights shining on the side of the road and the trees near the road. I went to sleep. I get a call from my husband at about 6:30 a.m. wanting to know what I did that night. I asked why. He said he seen me come out of the sleeper, sit in the jump seat. He said I looked out the windshield and disappeared. I asked did he make his delivery on time, and he replied yes. I told him not to worry about what I did. Interesting. The third time, I was 40. My 5-year-old daughter started crying while we were working on homework. She said, Mama, I seen you coming down the hallway. Then you went poof like a ghost. I went in your room. You were asleep. I then had to explain bilocation and astral travel to my 5-year-old. This was the last time anyone said they seen me. Yes, I do have other abilities, but I can't turn it on or off. Okay, so.
Hi, I'm Lala in North Carolina on the farm. And right now we got some major construction going on near our house. But I had heard recently that there was a Knobby Bigfoot sighting not too far. So I decided this morning that I would come out here and look and see if I see any tree breaks or anything that looks like what they show that Knobby Bigfoot leaves, or Sasquatch, whatever you want to call him. Florida, we call him swamp ape. But here in North Carolina, I found out they have the legend of the Knobby Bigfoot.
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh yeah.
Dude.
There's that sighting.
Gosh,
Man, look at that.
Look at Knobby, go
It's
Knobby.
a happy, scary Bigfoot right there.
Hi, I'm Lala in North Carolina.
Oh boy, that's good. Cute. All right, well, thank you for sending that in to us. That's very interesting and cute. The Knobby Bigfoot. Man, they're getting spotted all over the place these days. All right. So we got that done. Let's move on to our next one. Thank you for sending it in to us. Oh, right here. Okay. I'm going to try not to make this too long, but there are things that need to be said so you can kind of get the whole picture. This happened between 1978 and western Pennsylvania, outside of a little town about 30 miles north of Pittsburgh. I was 14 years old. My family and I lived in a small home in a housing plan about 5 miles north of the town of Butler that was surrounded by woods, and our house was on the outer edge of the plan. The thousands of acres of woods that adjoined the back of our half-acre lot was my playground, I should say. That's where me and my friend grew up, and that's where we spent all of our time. By the age of 12, I was so comfortable in those woods that for me it was nothing to hike back a little ways. Set up a tent and stay there all night, by myself. I wasn't afraid of anything. My parents taught us that there was nothing out there that would hurt us and that there was no such thing as monsters. So, yeah, thought I would walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I feared no evil because I was the baddest boy in the valley, laugh out loud. Or so I thought. Also, we hardly knew anything about Bigfoot. It was just a myth that wasn't real, kind of like that fake abominable snowman or Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. I also had to add my dad flew small single-engine airplanes as a hobby, and because this viewpoint of our woods, we called them, he could see just how vast the forest really was. So he would always warn me about how large those woods were and to be very careful and pay attention to where I was when I was playing out there. Jokingly, he would always say, if you get lost out there, we may never find your bones. I had a strong desire to start hunting at an early age. By the age of 14, I was big enough to pull the compound bow back and could shoot pretty well. So I practiced all the summer with it. I didn't have any other equipment, just a bow and a few arrows. No sights or quiver or hunting clothes or anything. That fall, I was into it. I would hunt every chance I got. I would jump off the school bus, run home, grab my bow and a couple good arrows that I still had left, and would run out into the woods wearing nothing but a flannel shirt, blue jeans, and Converse tennis shoes. I would stay there until dark and then make my way back home. Archery, hunting was the thing that my dad would let me do on my own. Even though I was supposed to have someone older than 16 with me and trust me, there was no one in this area anyway. On this particular evening after school, it was getting later in the season and the days were getting shorter, so I didn't have time to climb the trees that I had built a small seat in earlier in the year. So I decided to just sit on the ground at the base of the tree and hunt from there. I cleared the leaves away so I wouldn't make any noise if I had to move a little bit, and I sat down. I was about a half mile into the woods, by the way. I still live in the same area. I have researched this a lot. I know that as a kid, things seem bigger and further than what they actually are, but rest assured, my distance and size quotes are pretty accurate. It was a beautiful fall day, clear, cool, no wind. All the leaves had fallen, so visibility through the woods was good. I was anxious. There were only a couple days left in the season, and I was really hoping to see a deer. But it was turning out to be another evening of not seeing anything, nothing, not even a squirrel or a chipmunk. I just chalked it up to just another quiet evening in the woods. I kept track of the sun that was setting behind me. After seeing it completely disappear below the horizon, I remember telling myself that I would sit there for about 15 minutes and then start heading home. By that time, it would be too dark to make a safe shot anyway. After a few minutes of thinking that, all of a sudden, off to my right, say about 1:30 to 12 o'clock, is straight ahead, I heard something coming. It sounded like a man, a large man. Who the heck is out there making so much noise walking through the woods at this hour, I thought. Then I remembered that the last time that I thought I heard someone walking, it turned out to be a deer. I got excited and I got up to my right knee with my left hand straight and left foot on the ground so I could make a shot if it was a deer. This was all happening very fast. From that time I first heard it until I was up and ready to shoot was about 5 seconds. I did not have the bow drawn. I was just in a position I could draw if I needed to. This thing was covering ground fast. It wasn't running, just walking at a brisk pace. But God, I went from sounding like it was 130 yards away to being 80 yards away in a few seconds. Then at about 70 or 80 yards, I could see the two red eyes about 8 feet above the ground moving with the sound of these steps. And when I say steps, I mean if you could get an elephant to walk on two legs and take very long strides through the woods in the fall with leaves and sticks and branches all over the ground, that's what I heard. It was clumsy in a way, but it wasn't trying to be quiet either. It was just focused on purposely guided mission to get itself down through the valley that it was sitting in and around, following the creek that ran right in front of me. The creek was about 15 yards from my hunting position, and it ran from the right to the left in front of me. Very small creek, dried up mostly in the summer. I was on the west side of the creek, and whatever this thing was just on the other side of the creek and following it. An instant rush of fear came over me. What the hell is this? I can't see it, but I can sure as hell hear it. If it's an animal and it is making noise, I will run away, looking back. I think that I was worried that whatever this was going to get very close to me. And if I didn't warn it that I was there, I might startle it, and startle a dangerous animal usually turns out bad for the human. Suddenly I wasn't the badass boy in the valley anymore. This was all happening very fast. All this went on along my head in a matter of a couple of seconds. Now I was 30 yards and closing in. It still hadn't noticed me yet. Dropping back down to a sitting position, I started kicking the leaves around me with my feet. Remember the leaves that I scraped away so I could be quiet. Yeah, now they were my way of trying to scare this thing off. Nope, it instantly stopped and snapped those lights straight at me, which I now realized was eyes. They were glowing red, like the color of burning embers. Not flickering, just steady, and not shining like a flashlight, just glowing red, not eye shine. There was no light from anywhere it could cause a reflection, and the thing never moved again. Then, though it was very near total darkness, I felt like I should have been able to see a figure, but I couldn't. All that I could see was these glowing red eyes staring at me and blinking. By now it was about 20 yards from me, and I instantly got the impression that this thing is not afraid of me, and like I'd hoped, and at this point I felt like I went into shock. I don't know how else to explain it. All I remember is that I lost all collective recollection of time. I sat there in a trance for an unknown period of time. I couldn't even have been a minute. It could have been 10 minutes. I don't know. The only thing I knew is that it could not have taken my eyes off from those eyes the entire time, and they stood there, blinking at me. They were large, probably 2.5 inches in diameter and 8 inches center to center. Later, I remember looking at the ceiling in the house and knowing it is 8 foot high and thinking that's how high those eyes were. When I started to come out of the trance, I was in a standing position. I don't remember standing up. I remember thinking that I needed to get out of there. So I started slowly moving to my right about 3 yards until I could get out on the trail that I used to get in and out there. And then I kept moving on the trail, making my way out to the field that was about 40 yards behind me. I could not even for a second take my eyes off those eyes. I was like it was still in half a hypnotic trance. It stared at me the whole time, blinking, and then I could see those eyes and couldn't see those eyes anymore. I turned off running. I wanted to run faster, but I couldn't run fast enough, and I was as fast as a boy running. Oh, I was fast. I was a fast boy running. I kept feeling like it was right behind me, and I wanted to look back, but I refused myself to do so. I felt that it looked back and saw it running after me, that I would just crumble in fear and it would get me. So I just poured on more coals and never looked back. I figured if it got me, then it got me. Looking back was not going to help. I was already doing what I could do to stop it from getting me. I ran that half mile just as hard as I could and then reached our yard and took a quick look back to verify it wasn't there, and just kept the throttle wide open until I reached our back kitchen door and came bursting in. For some reason, I can't remember anything more about that night, but my younger brother was there to witness me bursting through the back door in a panic and not making any sense about what I was trying to tell my parents, and them shooing him off while they got me settled down. I don't remember anything more about that night. For years I had nightmares about the red eyes looking at me from the woods or in through my house window. When computers came out, I became fascinated with researching for the explanation to my experience. As of now, I think that at least one creature that we refer to as Bigfoot have the ability to cloak and also have the red glowing eyes. I have so many more details about this encounter, but it's too much to write down. The best way for me to tell the story is in person. That way I can convey the little details and really make the story. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Steve, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Take care, Aaron. Well, Aaron, that is a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What an experience back when you were a kid. And what you said it was 1974 or something like that? 1978. You know, I grew up in a small little country town, and so much of what you were talking about reminded me of my childhood. We grew up in the woods. I mean, we lived in those woods. Parents just, I don't know if parents didn't worry about kids as much back then, but we spent all of our time out there hunting, fishing, trapping, camping, playing hide and seek in the middle of the night. We just had a grand time out there. And I had my own experiences, memories from back then, things that happened that made me wonder as well. Like there was one time I was out checking traps. I mean, I was young, really young. And it got dark and I got turned around in our own backwoods. And something led me out of the woods to the nearest road, and I was able to find my way home. And I got my ass blistered by my father when I got there because I was so late. But yeah, and that one other thing that stood out to me is you're talking about a bow and arrow. I'm pretty good with a bow and arrow. I never got into hunting with bow. I always wanted to. I just never did. But my father was New York State champion for quite a while with a bow, and that was pretty cool. So anyway, maybe if I find, after we get done moving, if I find, like I got one of his medals, I'll put it up, a picture of it up. So really cool story. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sending it in. That's going to do it for that one. So I will see if I can get on to another one, or maybe I'll just see if I can get these ones put up. I got to have a little bit of editing ahead of me. So thank you so much for joining me. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you again really soon.